welcome back to the Colour Cave, where we like to play with art stuff, and I'm emphasising the like. Today it's time for the Upcrate battle for June, and the prompt is Landscape Imagination. I am at the end of my tether with these pens. I have tried a few thumbnails and about 6 or 7 different ideas just on scrap paper, trying to come up with something that's going to look reasonably good. Most of you know I'm primarily a pencil artist. I very rarely deal in ink and fine liners unless it is to outline something, and I have been trying my hardest to come up with something that's going to look really cool, and I have come up with a big fat zip. I'm going to take said pens with the addition, apart from the Chameleon colour change fine liners, I've also got this black art line fine liner that came in the box and a 2H pencil, sorry. I also have to apologise for the noise in the background. We just got a delivery from Amazon and they pack the boxes with like sort of crumpled up brown paper now, and my two collies absolutely love brown paper, so they are tearing that up behind me. Is that fun, Jock? Are you enjoying yourself? Pip's enjoying herself. Pippy, is that good fun? Woo, not interested. So this is the featured artist's artwork, which I think is very pretty. I really like it, and you can see quite clearly the colour changes that have been used. So when I first saw the prompt, the first thing that popped into my head was my Imaginarium drawing. This is the original drawing on A3. The first thing that popped into my head was picking out something from here to do because of the prompt. I have already sort of done something with this section, and with the colour scheme that we have available, I thought we would maybe dip into this bit here. Now, if you follow the path from the Candle Mountains down, there's like a little, I don't know whether it's a magical pool or there's something going on in this little kind of like glade bit here, and there's trees and things, so I kind of wanted to take like a snippet of that and use these pens to create a scene within this sort of area in this main drawing. So that's where all my ideas have been, because it fits this prompt to a T. So my thoughts on this were, in this glade here, there are 2 significant trees in this original drawing. Now obviously if I was going to zoom in on this and blow that particular area up, it would be a lot more detailed. But what I think is that the dapper gnomes may well live somewhere in amongst those trees. So what I was kind of thinking of doing was having the bottom of one of those big tree trunks. So we'll just do this very roughly. The reason I'm not doing this in the Sakura sketchbook is I am going to put that into the cave stash. It does have the test page on the back, but apart from that I haven't drawn in it. I don't need another sketchbook, so that's why we're in my Artway sketchbook. So yeah, I was thinking we could, if we had like the bottom of the tree trunk with some of the roots here, you know, we could really focus on some detail, which obviously fine liners are really good for. I'm thinking that the dapper gnomes they might not necessarily live here, but they might sort of kick about around this area, and surrounding that pond or magical lake or whatever it is, there is a sort of row of low bushes. So I was thinking like we're kind of zoomed in, so these bushes, we could draw in some of the roots of these bushes, and then that gives us this area here. And there's some stones that go around it as well, so I was thinking that maybe underneath one of these stones that there might be a little dapper gnome that lives in there, something like that. And then maybe we could have like a hole, you know, a little knot hole in the tree, and there could maybe be a wee dapper gnome poking out there somewhere as well. This is quite heavily influenced by the colouring page that I'm doing just now in Drawman Vanguard. That's what's kind of sparked this off. So that's kind of my thinking, and I just really want to have a play about with the line work. So this is not going to be a masterpiece, it may not even be a finished piece, but I'm just going to do my best to try and make this as interesting as possible. I think this is the only thing, truthfully, where I've ever felt that I fall completely flat on my face in terms of actual artwork. There is nothing, and I have tried a couple of times with them, there is just nothing that I can do that really displays the extent of how well I can draw and how much my artwork has come along in the last 2 years, and this definitely makes things a whole lot worse. All I'm doing here is I'm just starting to mark in some of the areas with the pencil that came in the box, where the bottom of this hedgerow is, I kind of want like a tangle of branches, you know, maybe them all sort of intertwined, and it's going to be like a mini forest for the dapper gnomes, you know, when you're down at their height, because they're only little guys, like they really are, they're only little diddly dudes. I'm not putting in all of my sort of detailed lines because we're going to get the fine liners to do the work, we might as well. I think that the dapper gnomes might be quite shy, you know, they might sort of generally hide away from the population. I've also not decided at all how I'm actually going to fit the colour change element into this. With it being so unpredictable, I don't think it's really all that wise, to be perfectly honest, but we're going to have fun with some line making anyway, and I think I'm going to start with the olive green and this green. We'll take the olive bottom and the green top. So that means when we're actually using it, we're going to go from the true green to the olive green, which is slightly lighter as well. So maybe we could put in some leaves with that. Let's try that. We used to get these reading books at school as primary school children, so pretty small kids. And they were illustrated by 5 or 6 different people. There was one illustrator who had a very distinct style, and he or she, they used to do rivers and everything was like line work, and if there was any like waves or splashes, they were always in this sort of swirly design, and I absolutely loved looking at those illustrations in the books as a child, and they were phenomenal. And even then, being very small, I still knew that that must have taken ages, so I had a lot of admiration for them, and they were all obviously in their children's books, so they were really fun illustrations. I really liked them, and that's kind of what I'm going to go for here. That to me looks quite subtle, you know, the colour change isn't that obvious. It might look really good because it is subtle, I am not entirely sure, but we are going to find out. I do want to demonstrate what these pens can do. Your other option, I feel, is to go with a more sort of photorealistic drawing, and I think for me, looking at other people's artwork, that seems to be what has turned out best, is to basically sketch a normal drawing, you know, of a figure or a plant or whatever, and then basically just use these for hatching and get some colour effects in the hatching. But anyway, you get the idea here of what I'm going for. So we've got this sort of gradient, and because I've left the lid on a lot longer this time, this sort of transition shade of green is much larger, and I'm really just going back into the olive now, which is kind of cool. Okay, so you can see this is going to be a long drawn out process, so I'm probably going to edit out most of this next part, because I am going to go from here now all the way across to here. So you can see I've started on the branches underneath my colossal hedge, and I've been using this nude colour with this sort of burnt red colour, and I've been at it for ages, and it's just starting to lighten up now, and even at that it's very subtle. This is, even filming this is kind of weird because I don't actually, you know, I don't even know where to film the interesting bits, so I've decided just to let the camera run, and then I can take out any parts that are really boring when I'm doing the same thing over and over. So what I'm trying to do here is, when I'm putting in these little branches, I'm trying to have most of my marks on the right hand side of the branches, and it's just so that they still have some sort of form and shape, you know, and you can see the directions that they're all going in. But I've also got to watch for this colour transition as well, and you can see that this is looking a little bit paler. This was the first one I did, like this is where I started. So, you know, this really is like it's a very sort of fine science, one of which I really, you know, especially last time, like I kind of struggled to persevere with. So I'm just going to do my best here to just go with the flow a little bit. I think we can establish that this does look like vegetation of some description, so I am going to take that as a win in my book. If you've never looked at the root network at the bottom of a hedge or a shrub, I strongly advise you to go and have a look because it's very interesting. You might get some funny looks if you do it in the park, right enough. But yeah, they are just literally like mini trees. So I'm trying to think from that perspective, although obviously we've got this, it is just a hedge because this is going to be the trunk of the tree. So I'm just wondering how long it's going to be now before my nude colour actually comes through. And this is considerably paler now. We are definitely in this sort of transitional area. But this might actually work out to be quite a nice effect, you know, coming across this way. I think if you had a full set of these and you could really plan out what you were doing, I think I personally would have a better chance of creating something that was a bit more substantial and a bit less, just something with a bit more substance that would stand on its own. So, oh there we go, we're going into this sort of pale pinky colour now, which is quite nice actually. So maybe there's just like a little bit of light catching this side, and maybe the sun's set behind here somewhere and it's shining on this side of these branches. I just feel as if this isn't joined up enough. These ones feel much more joined up. That's turned out to be quite a nice effect. I'm quite liking that. See, now the problem is that if you're going to do something like this and keep this gradient idea, if you have to go back and fix something, you're going to be quite hard pushed to find the point in the transition that's going to fit in. You know, if I want to put another branch in here now, that might be quite difficult for me to find out where, you know, how long I have to put the cap on to get to that stage. And I would say that that's something that may be a potential downfall of this sort of thing. So I'm going to try and stick this on for a couple of seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that'll do. And then I'm going to flip this to the back here, just to this test page. You can see I've kind of done it already with another one of the pens, and I'm just going to kind of run this through till I can get back to that sort of middle stage. Now this is one of the other things that I found really annoying about this. You're going to waste a lot of ink doing this, and the barrels on these pens are not big, like they're really not. So I think they're going to run out of ink fairly quickly if you're going to use them on a regular basis. Right, let's try this in here. Oh, I was quite close, that's pretty good. Okay, so let me just carry on a little bit here. Maybe take that up that side, and then I can start a new one there. See, that would, to be fair, that's a pretty good guess. That's just, I wouldn't say it was luck, but I think I've just picked the right spot here to do. And the other thing you've got to be really careful of is to remember to put the correct cap back in the correct pen, otherwise you will ruin the pen because you'll flood the chamber on the barrel with the lid. The olive pen with the green lid. Yeah, that's right. 1, 2, 3. And let's just see how long this takes. Let's see how long this blade of grass is actually going to have to be. That's very subtle. Okay, so 5 seconds is too long even for a big blade of grass. Or maybe, well, it's clearly not a blade of grass, it's a leaf. Well, I don't know. So let's try it. 1, 2, 3. And the changes between these shades are so subtle. So if you're looking for something subtle, then there is definitely room for that here. So I'm just going to try and add in a little bit of texture here. And just a teeny weedy bit of shading because I want these to look quite solid. Right, the next thing that I'm going to do, and I think this is going to be a huge help, is I am going to take my black fine liner, which is the Artline fine liner. I'm going to stick in some of my dark areas. So here there is like a knocked hole in the tree trunk, and I'm going to fill this in more or less solid. And behind all these branches I am going to fill this in as well, and I'm just going to use like a really tight hatch. I'm not going to, like, you know, I'm not going to fill in every single tiny little space, but I do want to give that illusion that it might be quite dark in behind here. And again, just by using a hatch like this, it's kind of in keeping with the rest of the picture and the fact that I'm, you know, just sort of line making rather than drawing something specifically. There we go, so I've started to add in a little bit of shading on my Nomi hat here, and I'm just using straight colour for this. So I figured there's a light source coming from maybe back here somewhere. I think that's probably becoming more obvious as time goes on. And it's just kind of happened organically. It's not, I have not done it on purpose, so it's a little happy accident. But what I want to do here is I want to make sure there's like enough sort of depth and tone in this little bit. So I'm going to use the black fine liner here, and I'm just going to add in a few little bits and pieces here, and it's so that I can bring this red a bit further over. Obviously I can't colour change between the fine liner and this sort of dark browny red colour, so I'm just going to utilise a wee bit of this. As I've been going along doing this, it reminds me of my first Inktober, and at that point I was a very new artist and I didn't really have any experience, or I didn't really know my way about any of my supplies, and I feel that this is the way this drawing is turning out. It's very much in the same vein as what I did that very first Inktober. Now that is not a particularly nice feeling, if I'm honest, but it's kind of funny how you revert to form when you're out of your comfort zone. And I think that is very, very apparent at this stage. But I've always said that, you know, when I do videos of any description, I always try and be as honest as possible and keep things real. And I will always show the not so good with the good. And I feel that this may be one of those occasions. I was really lucky with last month's scroller box in that I managed to do something, whereas I don't feel as if I'm going to have the same satisfaction when I'm finished, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to finish. I've got BR5 and BR1 somewhere. There, it's there. Because the light source is coming from in behind here, I would imagine that this would be darker, but again, I'm very limited with what I've got. So I want to stick with this idea of line making and, you know, using different types of line, and obviously the trunk of a tree is a really nice place to do that. And this is a pretty big old tree, and I've kind of got vibes from the very large beech tree that grows in my garden, and she's big. She's called Olga. Olga has this amazing set of roots that poke out of the ground, and you can, you know, you just take one look at it and you can see how big she is and how long she's been putting those roots down. So I wanted to get a little bit of that in here. And again, I'm just feeling like I wish I had a bit more contrast. These really kind of stylized lines. And just get a bit of this lighter colour in again, because it doesn't have to be technically correct, considering I've got gnomes poking out of holes in the ground, you know. When you're drawing in lines like this as well, sometimes you don't notice that the colour's actually changed already. You're like, oh, okay. The one thing I have noticed about these fine liners is that even if you just leave the tip of the pen on the paper for just a second when you're finishing a line, it leaves like a little dot. And here's a prime example. If I just zoom in a wee bit, you can see it here and where I've stopped to go in behind this grass, and that's something that it's just the nature of these pens, but it's kind of annoying if I'm honest. Okay, so that's a fairly good start, and I just want to use these individually now. So again, being very careful to make sure I put the correct cap back in the correct pen. I want it to have detail in it, but I don't want it to be, I don't want the whole page to be covered in ink because it doesn't really fit in with what I'm trying to achieve. So on the underside here, I want much more of the darker brown, that idea of some shading in. So this line at the bottom here is going to become quite thick. It'll be the same thing down here as well. But then we want to continue this down. So really you can see even from this, just as I'm doing this part, I'm able to achieve this sort of different shading in one thing and another without actually having to use the colour change caps. And the pen sort of sits quite nicely together, you know, there's no immediate and obvious, oh, she stopped there and started there, and it's just because you can go back over and you can go over each of your pen lines and you can darken down the ink. Like in here, if I keep going over these sections here, which are, you know, in behind this bit of grass here, it's giving you that contrast that you want, and there's no colour changing required. It's kind of difficult to get that little bit of contrast in here because these fronds are really thin, but if I had done them afterwards they probably wouldn't stand out, you know, if I'd gone with the green over the top of the brown. So I want to start just adding in a little bit more of the darker colour here, just down this section. Now I'm just following some of the lines I've already put down here, but I'm just going back over them, and it's just to try and make them a little bit darker. And you can see that's kind of starting to form down this side now. So I've got a little Know Me Friend up here as well. I want to get this up and round, and then maybe there'll be a wee bit of light hitting that section of his hat maybe. And we'll go back over this because we want to keep this nice and dark. And here where he's poking out his little knot in the tree, not only is this little gnome poking out a hole, but you can see he's got a slight dent in his hat here, and that is because he is hiding under a stone. So I just want to kind of draw this in with my pencil, and all I'm going to do is use the pencil to do a bit of shading, and I know that's nigh on impossible with a 2H, but I'm going to use that in the black fine liner just to sort of sharpen that up a little bit. So I'm just going to put my pencil on its side, and it's really just to give it a little bit of colour that's not ink, and will really help to sort of join it into the picture by using that fine liner, you know, to help, because in pencil like this it really, you know, it's not going to look like much at all, and we want it to feel as if it belongs in here. So I mean, ideally for this purpose I would have had like a 4B or even a 2B, but this is the pencil that we've been given in the box, so this is what we're going to work with. So we want some darker bits down this side because again the light's coming from back there somewhere. And then I can just take my fine liner. So it's like he's poked up from his hiding spot. That is a very cartoony looking stone. I'm actually having quite a lot of fun doing this. It's quite nice filling up the paper. I'm going to try with this nude colour and this green colour, and I want the green to come first, so I'm going to use the nude pen with the green lid. This is the olive green I'm talking about. So I just want to start down here. Now obviously I'm not going to fill up the entire page. I don't want to leave this massive blank space here. Now it's not lightening much because my plan is to sort of navigate towards this area of light as the colours start to change, and it's very slight, so again it's back to this, it's trying to like use our judgment to see, you know, if and when it's going to turn. And it is starting to get, if you look back from where we started to where we are now, that's yeah, that's quite light, so we want most of these to be up here. And I'm just going to build that up all the way across. Okay, I feel that like that's a bit more acceptable, so I just want to stick in another couple of like larger fronds here and maybe add in a few more details, and I think I'm pretty much going to call it done at that. Yeah. And again, maybe I think in here I'm going to have to do some, I think I'm going to make it some cross hatching. Now, I do feel like my tree is just kind of blending into things, so I do think I'm going to outline it because it is in the foreground. I just want to see if yeah, that looks a bit better. Okay, we'll go with that. And I think my little dapper gnome here needs to be sort of picked out from all the pattern. I've just noticed that his hats kind of define gravity as well. That's quite entertaining, that really is. Okay guys, I'm gonna call it quits there. I can say hand on heart that I've put the time and effort into this, and I look forward to seeing all of your creations on the hashtag for the Upcrate battle as well. I want to thank you very much for watching. I hope you're not too depressed now. And I'll see you back in the cave on Thursday for another video. So have a good day everyone, and bye for now.